All right, so have you ever heard that saying, the universe is testing you before choosing you?
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely one of those ideas that gets people talking, right?
It
Today we're
does.
going to really unpack it
Okay.
and see what this speaker, this motivational speaker or spiritual guide is actually trying to tell us about how the universe might be working in our lives.
That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you think about this too, because
Yeah.
we've talked about a lot of different spiritual ideas,
uh
but this one really stood out to me as something that, like, I think a lot of people can relate to on some level.
Absolutely.
We've all had those moments where it feels like life is throwing us a curveball,
Right,
and it's
right.
like, what is going on?
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting about this source is that it goes beyond just that simple, life is a test kind of idea.
Yeah.
And it really delves into, are these just random challenges or are they specifically designed to sort of bring out our strengths
Mhm.
and kind of prepare us for, something bigger?
Oh, so it's not like a one-size-fits-all exam,
Right.
but it's more like the universe is giving each of us our own personalized curriculum.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, I like that.
It's not about just kind of getting through the same test as everyone else,
Right.
but it's about really finding out what we're uniquely capable of.
So, like, what kind of analogy does this speaker use to describe this? Because
Yeah.
I feel like analogies are always helpful to kind of wrap our minds around these big concepts.
Right, and this source uses the analogy of gold being purified by fire.
Oh, I like that.
And, just as heat reveals the true essence of gold,
Yeah,
challenges, they kind of illuminate our inner qualities.
that's powerful.
And it's not about punishment, but refinement.
So it's not like we're being punished for our mistakes or anything?
Right. It's more like those challenges are actually helping us to become the best versions of ourselves.
So, like, in a real life situation, if someone loses a job that, on paper seemed perfect for them,
Yeah,
this source would say that maybe that's actually a redirection towards something.
absolutely.
That's even more aligned with their true calling, even if it's like really painful in the moment.
Yeah. And the source really stresses the importance of paying attention to how we respond to those
Uh,
challenges, because
yeah.
do we spiral into, resentment, or do we see this as an opportunity, to learn and grow?
I think that's so key, right? Because
Yeah,
it's easy to get caught up in like the why me, like why is this happening to me?
absolutely.
But if we can shift our perspective and be like, okay, maybe there's something here.
Right. What am I supposed to learn from this?
Yeah, what am I supposed to learn? What's the gift in this really awful packaging?
Exactly. And the source actually tells this story
Yeah.
about a woman who went through a series of financial setbacks.
Oh.
And, initially she felt like a victim,
Mm.
but then she realized that those setbacks forced her to get creative and tap into these hidden talents she didn't even know she had.
So like maybe those financial setbacks led her to starting her own business or something.
Yeah, exactly. She ended up becoming an entrepreneur
Wow, I love that.
and, was so much happier
Yeah.
than she ever was in her old job.
So what we might see as like a failure on the surface could actually be
Right, absolutely.
this like redirection towards something that's way more fulfilling.
Yeah, a hidden blessing in disguise.
It's all about perspective, I guess.
Well, absolutely. This source really emphasizes that it's not about what happens to us,
Right.
but how we choose to see it.
How we interpret it. Yeah.
Respond.
So, okay, if we're supposed to be paying attention to these tests,
Yeah,
how do we know what areas of life the universe is testing us in?
right. Because it's not like we get a syllabus at the beginning of our lives or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be a lot easier if there was like a cosmic syllabus.
Right. Chapter 1, patience, chapter 2.
Courage. Exactly.
Exactly. But the source does suggest that if we pay attention, the themes of those tests will start to become clear.
Oh, okay.
So, for instance, someone who always struggles with patience
Yeah.
might constantly find themselves in situations where they have to wait.
Oh, that's so true.
Maybe they're stuck in traffic
Yeah.
or they're dealing with a really slow internet connection.
Or they're waiting in line at the DMV.
Exactly.
So it's like the universe is playing this cosmic game of spot the pattern.
Yes, and if we can start to recognize those patterns,
Yeah.
it can give us clues about what areas we need to work on.
But it's like a pretty frustrating game if we don't have any guidance, right? Like,
Sure.
how are we supposed to know, like, what those patterns even mean?
Yeah, and that's where this source brings in the idea of intuition.
Okay, intuition. That's a big one.
Yeah, it describes it as our inner compass,
Okay.
guiding us through these tests and helping us figure out what they're trying to teach us.
So how do we know if we're actually listening to our intuition or if it's just, anxiety masquerading as wisdom? Because I feel like that happens to me a lot.
Right. And that's a great question. And the source actually addresses that.
Okay.
It says that true intuition usually comes with this sense of peace.
Yeah.
Even if the guidance itself feels a little risky
Really?
or unconventional. So it encourages us to pay attention to that feeling of alignment, that sense of this feels right,
Okay.
even if it defies logic.
I could see how that would be easy to ignore, though, especially
Absolutely.
if it's pushing you outside of your comfort zone.
Especially if our intuition is telling us to do something that, our mind is telling us is a bad idea.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh, but that's so scary.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
But the source warns that if we consistently ignore those intuitive whispers,
Oh,
the same lessons will keep showing up, possibly with even more intensity.
yikes.
So, it's like hitting the snooze button on a cosmic alarm clock.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Eventually, it's going to get louder and more insistent.
Until we finally wake up.
Exactly. And, this idea of intuition, it really ties directly into the concept of destiny.
Okay, destiny, that's a big word.
Yeah, and we'll dive more into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Ooh, a cliffhanger.
Yes. Stay tuned, listeners.
All right, listeners, we're going to unpack how these tests and our intuitive responses to them might be shaping a destiny far greater than we can currently imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back, and we're talking destiny, which I have to admit is a word that always kind of makes me a little nervous.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Like, is it all predetermined?
Yeah. Is it all set in stone?
Yeah, do I even have free will?
This source seems to lean more towards the idea of like a co-created destiny.
Okay, so not like fate.
Right. Not so much fate, but more like potential.
Potential, okay.
Yeah, and the source emphasizes that these tests that we've been talking about, they play a vital role in kind of revealing and refining that potential.
Oh,
Like they're the sculptor's chisel shaping us.
okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah, it's the people we need to be.
So it's not just about personal growth then.
Yeah, great.
It's about preparing us for something bigger.
Exactly, yeah. It introduces this concept of universal destiny,
Universal destiny, okay.
which suggests that, we're all connected
Right.
and our individual journeys are contributing to the evolution of consciousness as a whole.
Okay, so like our personal growth isn't just
Right.
about us.
Yeah.
It actually affects the whole.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like we're all part of this big cosmic web.
Oh, that reminds me of the analogy the source uses
Oh, okay.
about each person being like a neuron
Yeah.
in the brain of the universe.
I love that one.
Like our individual experiences and growth contribute to the overall intelligence of the
Yeah.
collective.
Absolutely. And, it emphasizes the idea that our personal victories, they're not just isolated events.
Right.
They actually ripple outward,
Oh, wow.
inspiring and influencing others, creating this kind of collective upward spiral.
So it's like we're all in this grand cosmic experiment together.
Exactly. And our individual successes contribute to the success of the whole.
Okay, so that kind of brings us to the idea of service then, right? Because
Right.
if we're all connected
Yeah.
and our actions affect the whole scene, then how does this source talk about service?
Well, it emphasizes service as a key outcome of passing our tests,
Okay.
suggesting that as we overcome these challenges, we develop unique insights and empathy and strengths
Yeah.
that we can then use to help others.
I'm a little skeptical about that, to be honest, because
Yeah.
it's easy to say, oh, we should be serving others.
Right.
But sometimes when I'm really struggling,
Yeah.
I'm just focused on surviving,
Absolutely.
like getting myself through it.
And the source acknowledges that tension.
Okay, good.
And it offers a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
It suggests that true service isn't just about doing good deeds,
Oh.
but about aligning ourselves with the universe's inherent generosity.
Okay, so it's less about I should
Right.
help other people and more about
Yeah.
tapping into a flow of giving and receiving.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it, yeah. It's more about becoming a conduit for that universal energy.
The source gives an example, right,
It
of a
does.
musician who overcame stage fright.
Yes, and once he conquered that fear, he was actually inspired to create workshops
Wow,
to help other artists
that's amazing.
who were struggling with the same issue. And it wasn't like a chore for him.
Yeah.
It was just an overflow of his own healing journey.
It's like when you've gone through something
Right.
really tough
Yeah.
and you come out the other side.
And And you want other people
You just want to share it.
to benefit from what you've learned.
Yeah, you want other people to know that, like,
Right.
hey, it's possible to get through this.
Exactly. And it seems like this source sees that impulse as a natural progression.
Okay.
As we refine ourselves, through these tests,
Mm-hmm.
we become more equipped to serve others
Yeah.
in a way that feels authentic and aligned with our own journey.
So we've talked about all these tools for facing these tests, right?
Yes. Gratitude, surrender, compassion, wisdom, resilience, joy.
But how do we actually put those into action?
Yeah. How do we apply them in real life situations?
Because it's one thing to talk about them,
Right.
but it's another thing to actually live them.
Right. And the source actually uses this metaphor of a garden.
Okay.
It says these qualities are like the seeds
Oh, like
that we plant within ourselves, and they need nurturing, they need attention,
right.
and consistent effort to blossom.
So just like a garden.
Exactly. And just like a garden, there's going to be seasons of growth and seasons of dormancy.
Okay, so we might not see the results immediately.
Right. Sometimes it feels like we're planting those seeds in concrete.
Oh, yeah.
Not fertile soil.
Totally.
But the source reminds us that the universe is patient,
Okay.
and it's always supporting our growth,
Even when we feel stuck.
even when we backslide.
Yeah, like, I'm never going to get this.
It's okay. We're not punished for those failures.
It's like that saying, right? We're not human beings
Having a spiritual experience.
having a spiritual experience.
Right.
We're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Exactly. And there are going to be bumps along the way.
And that's where compassion comes in, I guess.
Absolutely. Compassion for ourselves
Yeah.
and for others.
Because we're all just doing our best.
Exact.
Okay, so when we're in the middle of a really tough test,
Mm-hmm.
it can be hard to remember.
Right.
Be grateful to be compassionate.
Yeah. How do we access those higher qualities
Yeah.
when we're just trying to survive?
I think that's where surrender comes in.
Yeah. The source really emphasizes surrender.
And I don't mean like giving up.
Right.
I mean like surrendering to what is.
It's about recognizing when we need to relinquish control
Okay.
and trust a wisdom that's bigger than our own.
That makes sense. Like when you're facing a health crisis
Exact.
or a natural disaster.
Yeah.
Something where you really can't control the outcome.
Right.
It's about finding that peace in the chaos.
The source tells a story about a man who had to close his business
Oh, wow.
after years of hard work.
That's got to be tough.
And initially he was devastated,
Yeah.
but he chose to surrender to this situation
So what happened?
instead of fighting against it.
Yeah, did he just like give up on life?
No, not at all. He actually discovered a new purpose.
Oh, wow.
Through that surrender, he connected with the deeper sense of what he was meant to do.
So it wasn't a failure?
No, it was a redirection.
It was like a blessing in disguise.
Exactly. He ended up having a much more fulfilling second career.
So surrender isn't about giving up. It's about aligning with the flow,
Yes.
even when it feels counterintuitive.
Beautifully said. And I think that connects really well with the source's message about resilience.
Oh, resilience. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That ability to bounce back.
Right. But it's often misunderstood
How so?
because it's not about being stoic
Welcome.
or suppressing our emotion.
Right. It's not about just toughing it out.
Exactly. The source talks about resilience as a combination of inner strength and flexibility.
Okay. So being strong, but also able to bend.
Yeah, like bamboo, it bends with the wind,
But it doesn't break.
but it doesn't break.
So how does joy fit into all of this?
Because it seems counterintuitive, right, to find joy in the midst of challenges.
Yeah, it's like, are we supposed to be happy all the time, even when things are falling apart?
Right. But the source suggests that joy isn't something we find only when circumstances are perfect.
Oh, okay.
It's a state of being that we cultivate from within.
So it's not about pretending everything's okay.
Right. It's about finding those moments of lightness, gratitude, connection, even in the midst of the storm.
It's like a radical act of defiance against suffering.
Exactly.
Like, I'm going to choose joy even when it feels impossible.
And that reminds me of that Viktor Frankl quote.
Oh, yeah.
Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude.
Yeah, it's powerful.
In any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
And that choice,
Right.
that internal shift is what allows us to access
Exactly.
resilience, joy, and ultimately service.
Beautiful.
So if these tests are supposed to be refining us for a greater purpose, can we actually fail them?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Let's unpack that in part 3 of our deep dive. Listeners, stay with us.
Stay tuned.
We're about to explore the cosmic implications of success and so-called failure. Okay, so we're back, and I'm still thinking about that question we left off with.
Oh, yeah, about failing these cosmic tests,
Yeah, because like, what happens if we mess up?
right?
Like what if we just completely bomb one of these exams?
It's interesting how this source really reframes the idea of failure.
Okay, how so?
Well, it doesn't really see setbacks as failures,
Yeah.
but more as opportunities for course correction.
Oh, so instead of getting an F on our report card,
Right.
it's like the universe is gently nudging us back on track.
Exactly. Yeah, it's more like a GPS system.
Okay, I like
If you miss a turn, it recalculates the route and helps you get back on course.
I've definitely had those moments where it feels like
Yeah.
I keep running into the same problem
Oh, absolutely.
over and over again.
Yeah.
Like the universe is trying to teach me something.
Right. And the source even suggests that those
Mhm.
repeated challenges might actually intensify, not as a punishment,
Okay.
but as a way to get our attention.
So it's like hitting the snooze button on your alarm clock.
Exactly. And eventually
You keep getting louder
it's going to get really loud.
until you finally wake up.
You got to wake up.
Okay, so how do we know when we've actually passed a test?
Right.
Like, is there a cosmic graduation ceremony?
Well, the source doesn't really focus on a pass-fail system.
Okay.
It's more about continuous growth and evolution.
So it's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. It's about the journey,
Okay.
not the destination.
And all those tools we talked about.
Right. Gratitude, surrender, compassion, all of that.
All that good stuff.
They're essential for that journey.
So even if we stumble,
Yeah.
even if we make mistakes,
We can always get back up
we can always get back up.
and keep moving forward.
The source even says that those moments of stumbling,
Yeah.
those perceived failures,
Yeah.
can be some of our most powerful teachers.
Absolutely. That reminds me of
Of what?
the Japanese art of kintsugi.
Oh, yeah, where they repair broken pottery with gold.
Exactly.
I love that.
The cracks aren't hidden, they're celebrated.
Because they add to the beauty of it.
Exactly. They add to the story.
Okay, so instead of being afraid of failing,
Right.
we can be curious about it,
Yes,
knowing that those challenges hold valuable lessons.
absolutely. And you never know, they might even lead to unexpected breakthroughs.
So this idea of evolution ties back to that concept of universal destiny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, our individual journeys with all the twists and turns
Mhm.
are all contributing to something much larger than ourselves.
It's like we're all part of this massive cosmic tapestry.
Yeah, a beautiful image.
Every thread adding to the richness and complexity of the design.
And that design is always unfolding, revealing new patterns and possibilities.
So we might not know the final destination,
Right.
but we can trust that we're all part of something bigger.
Absolutely.
And every experience, every test is shaping us
It's all part of the plan.
for a purpose that we can't even imagine yet.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. And I think
Yeah.
it leaves our listeners with a sense of hope
Yeah.
and empowerment. We might not have all the answers,
Right? But we have the tool
but we have the tools
to navigate this crazy journey.
with courage and grace.
So next time you're facing a challenge, remember, it's not a sign of failure.
No.
It's an invitation to level up.
The universe believes in you.
Even when you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Tap into those inner resources.
Trust the process and keep evolving.
And you never know, you might inspire others to do the same.
That's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's always a pleasure exploring these big questions.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep trusting the journey.